Now I want you to go to America and warn them of the judgment that is coming upon them. Now please listen very carefully. If they choose the wrong president, America will be judged. That's why this weighing scale is here. How will she be judged? Two ways. A flood is determined for her. It will devastate the Mid-East. A fire is appointed for her. It will devastate the Midwest.
Chris, 9 people are dead here in New York City from last night's biblical rains and the flash floods they created.
In New York City alone, an entire month's worth of rain came down in just 2 hours.
We are moving into uncharted territory here with climate change. The climate that we've been living in is not going to be the climate that we are living in right now, nor over the next decades.
The number of weather-related disasters has increased 5-fold in the past 50 years. That's according to the World Meteorological Organization. On average, an event linked to weather, climate or water hazard has killed 115 people every day since 1970.
Ida has transformed streets into waterways, trapping some residents in the worst affected parts of Louisiana.
The astonishing and rapidly intensifying power of Hurricane Ida, which slammed into Louisiana just a few days ago, fueled by an unusually warm ocean. And on America's west coast, wildfires burn with increasing ferocity and frequency.
When fires get this hot, this intense, they're very hard to stop. And this fire is headed straight for a Californian beauty spot. Wow! Over the past few days, residents of South Lake Tahoe have looked on in horror as the Calder fire got closer and closer to their homes.
This is the worst I've seen it for 32 years.
Much of what happens now depends on wind direction and fire intensity. A state of emergency has been announced here. If the area were to be engulfed, it would represent some of the most large-scale destruction from US forest fires in modern times.
With the death toll still rising in New Orleans after Hurricane Ida struck with its full force on Sunday, and 50,000 people evacuated from parts of Northern California because of a massive forest fire this week, America is feeling the full wrath of extreme climate-related events.
I've lived in New York for 40 some odd years, and obviously things are changing. And I love South Lake Tahoe, and we're seeing that burn down right now too. So the whole West is in big trouble with. Wouldn't it be great if we could take all this rain and put it into California, for crying out loud, right?
It all points to one thing, says President Biden.
The past few days of Hurricane Ida and the wildfires in the West and the unprecedented flash floods in New York and New Jersey is yet another reminder that these extreme storms and the climate crisis are here.
A crisis on multiple fronts.
As the tail end of what was Hurricane Ida dumped record-breaking rainfall.
Oh my God. Oh my God. People stuck.
The National Weather Service declared the city's first ever flash flood emergency. Many could hardly believe what they were seeing.
For the first time in recorded history, the National Weather Service issuing a flash flood emergency for all 5 boroughs of New York City. More than 7 inches of rain in just a few hours.
After unprecedented storms left at least 50 people dead.
Look at that tornado!
The warnings had been there. The storm was coming. But there was little that could be done to protect from Ida's wrath. New Jersey is not tornado territory.
It seems now to be so devastatingly regular, yet more extreme weather. Multiple states of emergency declared, records broken again.
Turning major roads into rivers and stranding cars and lorries.
It is a similar story in Philadelphia, with water as far as the eye can see, engulfing communities.
But it wasn't just the volume of water, it was the speed it came. Highways overwhelmed in minutes. And the railways too. This was the New York City subway, flooding on a level which left people stunned.
Their borders are not secure. The southern entry is where evil is brought into this nation. Even witchcraft, sorcery, and abominations of many kinds are brought into this country through that access. The enemy is fighting hard to prevent the wall of protection from coming up.
More than 10,000 people living under a bridge. This is the scene at the U.S.-Mexico border as thousands of migrants from Haiti, many of whom began their trek overland as far away as Colombia, find their long and often dangerous journeys stopped at the international bridge connecting Del Rio in Texas to Mexico's Ciudad Acuña. The situation is becoming desperate.
We now have 1/3 of the population of the city of Del Rio, Texas, in a confined space under the City of Del Rio International Bridge. So that said, I had thought that the alarm was set on Monday. This is setting the nuclear bomb alarm that this is no longer sustainable, acceptable.
Overwhelmed by the surge of asylum seekers, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced it will use a pandemic-related authority to immediately expel migrants back to Haiti without allowing them an opportunity to claim asylum. But with the promise of a better life in sight, migrants refuse to give up their dreams of a new life in America.
You know, I have seen in multiple visions that groups and groups of witches and wizards chanting and putting curses upon Mr. Trump. They are chanting, they are concocting all these potions, and they are putting curses upon him. And also, they are working doubly hard so that Judge Amy is not voted to become a Supreme Court justice. It's all the plans of their enemy working terribly hard. And what do the Christians do? Sleep. Sleep. You don't care. When they who work for Satan can be so fervent, how should the church be? No, you are fighting with one another. Right? We are busy making videos and putting on YouTube, criticizing this church, this pastor against that pastor, against this, against that. What are we doing? Instead of using the sword to fight against the devil, we are using the sword to fight with one another. Is that the reason why the Holy Spirit gave you that sword? The sword of the Spirit is not to fight with each other. I am not your enemy, you are not my enemy, right? The principalities, the powers, and the rulers of darkness, and the spiritual wickedness in the high places, they are our enemy. So we should war against them, not against one another. But look how successfully the enemy has caused us to be diverted.